name is Bharat. I am one of the co-founder and Chief Product Officer of Vunet Systems. Just before I start talking about this, I just wanted to have a quick poll. How many of you have heard the word observability? Can you just raise your hands? Perfect. Then the presentation I have is quite apt because I see a lot of you do not even have a view in terms of what observability is. Forget about building an end-to-end transaction observability. Let's start with the problem statement. In today's digital-first environment, every digital-first business has to make sure that every click, every tap, every request or transaction provides the best user experience. When I say best user experience, what it really means for today's young generation. If you look at India and if you look at your consumers, there is a very young India who is basically online today. And they are quite impatient. And their expectations are quite high. When I say this, what it really means is they want your application to be always available, 24/7, 365 days a year. And anytime they are interacting with your application, it should always successfully work. And on top of it, they also expect it to happen super fast. And that's what sums up, apart from having a very sleek UI, UX, how do you achieve a best user experience? But if you are not able to provide that best user experience, any delay or failures leads to a loss of trust. That loss of trust also results into loss of business, and if these issues keep happening very frequently, it also impacts your brand, your reputation in the internet. But delivering that best user experience is getting very, very hard. And you may ask why. There are multiple reasons. One is that all the software is being created by human. And I am sure you would have heard somebody say, to err is human. And the biggest challenge we have with whatever we have created, there will always be failures. Whether it is application, whether it is API, or whether it is infrastructure. So this is just one part of the problem. The second part of the problem is that detecting an issue is very hard. And this has happened because your application and infrastructure is continuously evolving. And since last 10 years of digital revolution, the whole infrastructure and application delivery has become quite complex. And on top of it, we have been using highly reactive monitoring tools. And all of this coming together makes the detection of the issue itself very hard. Then the second part comes. Identifying the root cause is even harder, where you basically have to, because there are a lot of systems coming together and working to deliver that application to your end users, figuring out which system, which application, which service has gone down or is creating this challenge for your user is even more difficult. Then once you have identified the root cause, you really need a set of people or an army of people and putting a lot of time and effort to resolve that. And this whole thing together is making the challenge what you have. Now, that I have established that we cannot eliminate failures. It's something which we ourselves have created, and it is difficult to figure this out. What is the next best thing? Next best thing is, can we eliminate surprises? What it really means is, when a problem happens, can I proactively figure out that there is a problem happening? And then the whole system also tells me where the problem is happening and how do I resolve it quickly. What is the better way? Better way is to be much more proactive rather than being reactive. And how does it happen? It can happen if you start with observability. What I really mean by starting with observability is that you basically, when you are designing your application, when you are developing your application, can you go ahead and put certain clues which your application emits, which you can use when your basically application is having challenges in terms of telling to the IT operations team that application is having maybe failures which are coming in because of certain reasons. So these are the clues which you basically need to embed into your own application while you are designing. Now you may ask that, okay, this is something which you are talking about, the application which is being designed or developed now. How do you do this for the previous applications? What is already there in the system which might be legacy and all? And that's where, I mean, I don't want to market it, but that's where Vunet's business as a observability comes into picture. We have been able to bring the similar type of visibility into the legacy applications or the application which is already developed or deployed within your data center to give you the deep visibility whenever the problem happens, where and how this problem has manifested, so that you can go ahead and fix it faster. Coming back to the new age application, where we have started recommending all of our customers today that when you started designing your application, start thinking about observability. How you are going to monitor and observe this whole application and its services and its integrations with other third-party services, and what sort of metrics and other things required. And this is where the observability comes in picture. So, observability basically has three pillars: logs, metrics, traces. Observability comes from the control system theory from almost 1970s, where a complex system can be monitored or can be observed by the metrics, logs and traces in the digital world it is emitting or it is throwing out, so that you not only monitor it, you can ask any given point of time how my application is performing. And if it is not performing to the standard or to the requirement which you have set, then you can go ahead and further inquire why that problems are happening and which particular services and systems are contributing to that problem. So for example, the metrics, if you are looking at the metrics which your application is throwing, it could be your request rate, failure rates, time it is taking for servicing different type of requests, right? So these are like, we call it RED sort of thing, request rate, error rate and duration or latency. And this you can actually do at different dimensions or different attribute level. For example, you have a UPI application, you can actually do these metrics, emitting these metrics, let's say at each PSP level, or each beneficiary bank level, or each transaction type level, is it debit, credit, mandate, and so on, right? Which basically gives you much more deeper information in terms of how do I observe this application. Similarly, logs. Logs has always been seen as ultimate source of truth. Everybody asks for log. I mean, the regulation related discussion which the panel was having little earlier, I think most of these people generally ask for, okay, can you give me logs of your application, logs of your system, so that we know exactly what is going wrong within your application and infrastructure. But what actually most of the thing people have missed is putting in the right context with the right set of information in your logs. For every request or every response which you have got, if you are putting in enough context information, you actually get a wealth of information from your logs itself. And that can be correlated across multiple other services to give you much, much deeper information. The last part is the traces. I don't know how many of you know, but an open source, open standard has been created called Open Telemetry. And Vunet recommends Open Telemetry to anybody who is developing a new application with respect to instrumenting their application with distributed tracing. So what it really does is it gives you how a particular request is processed within your software, where which service has called which service and how much time it has taken and so on. That gives you a very decent understanding of how your application software itself is working. And if there are challenges with third-party APIs or third-party services, that is very, very quickly visible. Now, if you are doing all these three things together, when you are developing your application, then any time your users are about to face a problem, proactively you will be able to get a view in terms of how my application is performing, and then it will also give a better understanding of the root cause, which basically might be your infrastructure is creating a challenge, or your third-party service is creating a challenge, or your CBS is stuck, and so on. And that's why we basically have started recommending something called embed observability into your application design and development. Just the last part, Vunet actually is a business journey observability platform. Today, across customers, we monitor more than 28 billion transactions a month, which is more than almost $500 billion of transactions worth. We have been working with a lot of large banks and small finance banks and so on, where we monitor their complete application infrastructure with a full stack observability sort of thing. Finally, we have started doing this embedded observability workshop where we talk about the 3 pillars. How do you embed this in your applications while your application is still being developed or designed? This has been very well received by some of our customers. Anybody here would like to do this for your design team or development team internally or ops team? Very happy to do that. Please reach out to us, and then we can take this forward. Thank you.